Here.
Mr. Benson?
Here.
Chair McLaughlin?
Here.
And I'm Laura Turway. Oh, Christina Robertson, Gardner staff.
Is there any public comments on items not listed on the agenda? No. I need to open this public hearing. So we'll now commence the public hearing on agenda item HR 11-05, 1108 6th Street, for approval of stuff. Alterations. The criteria for approval of land use action are contained in Chapter 17 of the Oregon City Municipal Code. The proposed development must comply with applicable provisions contained in the City of Oregon City Comprehensive Plan. Generally, unless otherwise noted, if a request is found to be consistent with the municipal code, it is considered consistent with the comprehensive plan. If you wish to participate in this hearing, including challenges for bias or conflict of interest, you must complete the sign-in form located on the table at the front of the room and deliver it to staff. Please do so immediately. The chair will only recognize those who have submitted complete forms. Testimony will be taken in the following order: applicant, testimony in favor, testimony in opposition, rebuttal by applicant. When recognized by the chair, please come forward to the podium, give your name, address, and make your statement. All testimony, arguments, and evidence presented regarding this request must be directed toward the applicable criteria or other criteria in the plan or land use regulation which the person believes to apply to the decision. Please address only the applicable criteria for the decision. Please do not repeat testimony. If you wish, you may choose merely to agree with the previous speaker's statements. An issue which may be the bias or basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals shall be raised not later than the close of the record or at final evidentiary hearing. Such issues shall be raised and accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Commission and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision makers and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of persons to participate in the public hearing either orally or in writing precludes that person's right of appeal to the City Council or LUBA. Written testimony submitted prior to the hearing constitutes participation in the hearing. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the decision maker to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. The Commission shall grant such request by continuing the public hearing pursuant to the standards contained in ORS 197.763. Do any of the board members have a conflict of interest or ex parte contact regarding this application?
No.
Who has visited the site? Okay, then I will now turn this over to staff.
All right. Thank you, Chair McLaughlin. This is a request for alterations to a designated structure in the McLaughlin Conservation District. 1108 and 1108 and a half. 6th Street is an historic duplex, originally built as a duplex in 1925 in the Mediterranean style. There's a couple of them in Oregon City, not that many, I believe 3. This is one of them. The owners just recently purchased it. It was in foreclosure from the bank, and they've been working with Todd Eisland, the applicant's representative, on a rehabilitation plan. There are some severe structural issues in the basement, and in the packet you saw some photographs and was discussed in the application. They've been working on the shoring issues, but they're kind of moving quickly because when it was in foreclosure, there was some seepage from the roof and some damage, and then looking at some of the basement issues, they need to come up with an idea of how they can rehab it and bring it back into a functioning use as a duplex. So briefly, I'd just like to go through some of the photos, and then I'll talk a little bit about what's being proposed. This is the front elevation. You'll see the front divided light windows. These were mentioned in the staff report, and there was a recommendation to get more information before any approval for replacement could be done. I made a condition of approval that the applicant come in with repair bids to start looking at the cost of repair versus replacement. The Historic Review Board Policy 10 indicates that historic wood windows should be retained whenever possible and repaired, but if they cannot, be replaced with wood windows that match the original. Mr. Eisland will be removing that request from the hearing this evening as he doesn't have the bids yet. So what will be approved this evening will be not involving removing the front 2 windows. If the applicants and Mr. Eisland want to come back on a staff level at a later date, I'll be using HRB policy 10. If they can show that repair is, all windows can be repaired, but if they show that the repair is really to an extreme end, then I would only allow a replacement wood windows that match the original configuration of the mullions and depth. And that could be done at a later date if they want to move forward. But right now, this evening, the applicant's going to remove the replacement of the windows from this application. So when you approve, we're going to remove the condition of approval.
But just those windows, right?
For just the front windows, correct. So this is the front elevation. This shows the existing non-historic side porch and non-historic metal siding. This also shows the porch. This is showing the existing left facade. So you'll see the infill porch that's being proposed, where my hand is.
Yes, that wall really is leaning 2.5 inches.
And then this shows an existing vinyl window that will be replaced. And then the porch stairs. This is the rear of the building, and Singer Creek is actually behind it. I wonder if we have a better photo, but you'll see the applicant is looking at providing access to the rear. Just showing another infill porch. Showing the two existing doors from both of the duplexes going down these steps. This is showing some of the structural issues. There's Todd. They're at the back looking towards the building, and Singer Creek is right behind you. There we go. This is one of the pads that they'll be proposing to be removed. This is in the Natural Resource Overlay District, and as part of our Natural Resource Code, you are exempt if you can show no net increase in impervious surface. So they're working with Pete Walter and our planning division to show that by taking away this building slab, some of the new stepping stones and they'll be adding will result in no net increase of impervious surface. So the Natural Resource Overlay, they're trying to fall under the exemption section. I'll let Todd talk a little bit more about some of the structural issues with the buttressing. Existing coal chute to be demolished. These are some of the structural. So just briefly, this is showing the site plan. You'll see these are the two units. There's proposal, new walkway, concrete step walkway, and then new concrete pavers behind a new rear staircase. This was that concrete pad that was to be removed. This shows the new infill side porches. And then this is the deck that was there that's proposed to be demolished. This is some of the layout, the new layout of the main floor. And then you'll see what they're going to get out of the basement is a new bedroom and new living area to try to bring these up to a 3-bedroom rental unit to try to get a little bit higher rent to pay for all the improvements that are being done. And they'll see back here is the reconfiguration of the rear steps that, if you see right here, this was the original doors that you saw from the rear steps. It's going to be moved, and the doors will be here, and there'll be a new small rear porch. So this bottom basement level will be reconfigured. So this is the front elevation, and nothing will be changed.
Oh, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Go back to the front where the windows are.
This one?
Yeah. So I know I'm supposed to know this, but those dotted lines that make the triangle, what do
That shows that they're casement.
Casement there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That shows how they open.
Okay.
So right now, in this application, they were proposed to be replaced, but Mr. Eisen's going to take that off the
Right.
table this evening. So I'll be working with the owners at a later date through Historic Review Board Policy 10 on a staff level approval of repairing it, or if they can really truly show that repair is not an option, then I'll be approving a new wood window that matches all the dimensions of the existing windows.
And these are, the ones that are bad are wood? They are wood.
There would be something that's-
This is showing what the new infill will look like. And it'll be stucco to match. And they're going to do a terracotta mission tile roofing. It's proposed up here. And then this is showing the other side. And they're going to get rid of and demolish the existing side door and stairs. And if you saw that from the photograph, that's going to be removed. And replace the vinyl window with a new wood window to match. And down here, of course, here with the new improvements in the basement, a new window well, egress window will need to be added. So this is kind of where some of the larger changes are happening. If you remember, there was that small opening and a little staircase and then the two doors that were right there. Well, those two doors will be moved farther back and it'll be two French doors that will go out to a small patio. So it'll allow some outdoor space for the property owners. The tenants, excuse me. This is a section plan. Showing how this all works, and you'll see the new rear porch goes into the basement family room. So if you look at the recommended conditions of approval on page 11 of the staff report, the first three are fairly traditional ones, that final occupancy inspection is required. The no incised lumber pressure-treated wood shall be used on any visible surface. So I'll be looking at the rear staircase to make sure that no visible pressure-treated wood. It can be used as structural support, but not viewed. Number 4, about the applicant should provide additional information on the window. I recommend being removed because page 11 of 13 of the staff report.
Sorry.
That's okay. Because number 4 is just relating to the front divided light windows. The rest of the windows being proposed to be replaced are sash windows, and I think they meet the Stoke Review policies for sash removal, and then the replacement of the vinyl windows with wood windows. The last one I had, condition approval number 5, there was some question in the application about the material of the rear porch, and I'll go back to right here. If this was wood lap or cement board, so I'm going to leave it to the applicant can speak on that a little bit. But number 5, I had some questions, so I needed a little bit of update on what is proposed to be removed or to be used for this siding. Right here it says hardy plank, but I've also seen in other parts of the narrative that it was wood, so I'm going to leave it to the applicant to discuss that.
Is there a reason why you don't want to go stucco all the way to the door?
We'll ask him when he comes up.
Yeah, Todd will come up in just a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, some of the questions, I mean, that'd be one is if, because it's your insetting, so, you won't be seeing much of it because it's going to be, well, A, it's the back of the building. 2, there might be some angles from the side street in, but it's set back enough that it's not going to be really a prominent element. So on a staff level, I generally would steer towards wood siding, but it's an odd location in the bottom. I'd like to hear inside. I'd like to hear more about, is there a cement floor siding chosen for specific water reasons? So I'll leave that to the applicant to talk a little bit
We've got
about.
stucco everywhere else.
Right. So, unless if there might be a reason why it can't be stuccoed or it shouldn't be, or maybe it's a
Cost.
cost issue. So I'll let the applicant talk about that. Was about the only thing that I
moisture.
didn't have enough information on. I think the metal railing is appropriate for Mediterranean architecture, and I think that's fine. It's very simple. It's not, A, it's on the rear elevation, and B, metal is appropriate for Mediterranean architecture, and I think that it does not become an element that's on its own, so I think it is appropriate. I think it'd be more appropriate actually than wood, but though you can easily paint wood to match. But if we're dealing with a building that has a lot of water issues, I can see why you'd want to choose this, and it is architecturally appropriate.
Right.
So I'll bring the applicant up. I don't really have anything other
Does anybody have any questions
to
for
comment
staff?
on other than what I have in my staff report, but I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions?
I was just, I just wanted to address the M&A's letter. When do I do that?
Sure.
Can I do that now?
Yeah.
Is this the Vonderhay house?
Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
I don't agree with what they're saying about how the simulated divided lights are not appropriate. If
We're taking that off.
Correct, and they're taking that off the table.
I know that you're taking it off, but I mean, at some point it's going to come back. So I just wanted to register this now because I'm thinking of it, and this is in
Right.
here, and I don't know if this is going to come up when it does come
Right.
back.
The one thing I'd like to bring back to the board for direction, there's double pane windows that are simulated divided light with the stoppers, so you can't see through. And then there's single pane, true divided light. And I think there needs to be a discussion about, with today's energy code, very most likely, even with new wood windows, you very well are going to have the double pane with the exterior divided lights that are going to have the stoppers on the inside. So that's one discussion to have on replacement. Is that appropriate, or is? And I'm definitely not an expert about how. I mean, I really hope that they can repair this window. So I hope we don't have to get to that point. But one thing. For a divided light wood window that's double pane with stoppers that's truly molded to fit, it goes a long way for replicating what was there. But it is not replicating exactly what's there. So I'd be curious to hear what John's comments are on that.
Well, I think that's something I'll ask the applicant. I haven't stood there and looked at them, so I don't know the shape they're in, so we can ask and talk about it.
I did a site visit last week, and the windows looked...
They're probably beat.
They did, but I've seen much worse. And so I didn't see that they were obvious candidates for replacement. They look like they look... The condition to me looked like the property owner needed to pursue repair as an option and get bids and understand what would be required for repair before even moving to the next step of replacement.
Okay.
Because it looked like it was in decent enough condition to go down that route.
I did look a little closer at them, and they would definitely have to be pulled to be repaired.
Yeah.
Because it was more than just some minor decay in some places. There could be water intrusion issues. So, but it's not beyond repair.
My concern is even if you do repair those, are you going to have some kind of insulation issues because they are such primitive windows?
Well, the building, I'm not speaking for the building division, but generally, if you're repairing an existing window, that's not part of the building permit package. So that window wouldn't be triggered for energy upgrade if you're just repairing it.
I'm just talking about, energy efficiency. I mean,
Well,
wouldn't you want that?
Well, and that's where maybe
Spending all that
interior,
money on your-
right, and that's where the discussion of interior storms, exterior storms, it's that balance of keeping our historic wood windows, which are the defining sometimes character of our building, and understanding energy efficiency. So it's that balance between the two, and putting a new wood window into a building isn't instantly going to change your energy efficiency if you don't have the other parts of the building addressed.
That's right. And the other issue is they've got several other windows that can be replaced with new ones, but these ones, if they aren't beyond repair, and if they were to replace them, they still have the labor involved of removing what's there and replacing and dealing with the stucco and the repair. So really where the cost difference is as opposed to new as opposed to repair. And that's where they have to get the prices and see. And then that's where they have to work with you to figure out. If it's $100 for a new window and it's $110 to repair,
Yeah.
that's a no-brainer.
Right. And that's generally what I've seen is you need to show me that repair really, that the window really clearly is.
It's beyond, it's cost prohibitive.
It's cost prohibitive.
That's
I mean,
right.
every window can be repaired, but there's a point where we're not being,
That's right. And I think we're on that page.
Yeah, to get back to the heart of your question.
Yeah.
I think if the dividing is within the panes of glass, that's a no-go. But if there are actual mullions on the outside,
right. These would be outside mullions, but with the spacer bars in between.
I think that's what you're looking for direction.
Well, that was a question, but, some people don't call that a true divided light because it's still mullions on the outside with two windows and spacers. So some people think, well, those are close and we'll count those as the same, because that's really what we mean, compared to, no, we want to see a reconstruction of a true divided light. So that's a semantic, but it's really two different products. But sometimes people lump those together. So
Yeah.
kind of my direction, and we haven't had this happen that much, where I've been working with most property owners try to keep their divided light windows because they don't, A, want to pay for the brand new one that I want to make them, that I said they can only do. They generally end up repairing them because they don't want to pay for the expense of a brand new divided light window. But if for some reason the applicants did, do I need to come back to the board for an exterior mullion, double pane with stoppers in the inside?
I would say no, but that's me.
Assuming it matches exactly
Right.
the existing dimensions.
I think they'll probably find that, I mean, these are big windows, and
It'll be
they're
expensive to
expensive
replace, yeah.
windows, and they might say, repair's not so bad,
Yeah.
because they have to still remove them, just like they would, and put them back.
Well, that's my hope, is placing the hard costs side by side.
Yeah, I mean, they're already going to have sticker shock at the cost of rehabbing this place, big time.
And one nice thing is, some of these things may be done in phases, but this Historic Review Board approval is good for 2 years.
Right.
With the option of an extension for 1 more year. So, some of these things may not be move forward, but the whole package can be approved.
Right. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, then I'm going to turn it over to the applicant. How long does the applicant have, Laura?
I'll be quick.
Yeah, don't all the time. Go ahead and state your name and your...
Todd Iceland, Iceland Architects, 1307 7th Street, Oregon City. Christina did an excellent job of presenting this. The questions she had about the windows, we do have some bids. I do not have those bids, though, personally, so the applicant's out of town. As soon as they get back, we'll work with Christina to resolve those front windows. The other windows on the side, we are looking at a true divided light configuration to match what was there, because a lot of the side windows did have true divided lights and are very deteriorated. But they will have the spacer bars in between. So you get the shadow line. So it'll be like this, only this will be wood rather than aluminum on the exterior. And that's what they're proposing throughout. The owners bought this property out of foreclosure, didn't realize, they didn't really do any due diligence and didn't realize what their structural repairs were going to cost. And they're going to cost substantially more than they paid for the property. So,
They must have got it for a pretty good price, though.
yeah, they did, but they're putting a lot into it. The foundation's crumbling, failing. The basement floor is built out of 2x4s at 32 inches on center. It's been inundated by water off and on throughout the history because Singer Creek does rise and flood it. The entire property is in a environmental overlay zone. So we're really stuck with the building envelope as is, and they want to do the right things, but to get the structure up to current code requirements, insulate it, take care of the roof problems, it's going to be a substantial undertaking. Their intent is to have it all done by September.
Oh,
So
ambitious.
yes, they have a very tight time frame. So as far as the hardy plank on the backside, it's recessed 5 feet in.
Okay.
And there were concerns about moisture and wood by the owner, so
Well, stucco tends to mold, it doesn't dry out real well. Is that
Right.
why you did it that way?
and it also shows that it is an addition and it's
yeah.
an alteration from what is existing. The cost to go to stucco, since they're going to re-stucco the whole thing, is not a major cost, so
No.
So
if
then
the
why
board
did you-
feels strongly either way,
What, then, if that was the case, what made you decide just to do Hardy there?
it's a little cheaper, and to differentiate it as something that was not original.
I don't know that it's visible from anywhere. Am I
No,
right?
it really isn't.
Yeah.
And it's on the south side, so it really, I mean, it's shaded, there are a lot of cottonwood and poplar trees back there. But if the board has a strong feeling, they're not opposed to doing stucco back there.
The only thing I can see is having lived in places that have stucco that's in a cove like that, you get a lot of spiders and bugs and,
Well, you're going to do that with siding, too.
yeah, but it's easier to clean it off. No?
What's the soffit going to be? Just plywood? What is it?
Plywood.
Yeah.
But
And
that's,
then-
that's their choice. I don't know.
The flood vents are going to be a metal louver, because we do need to keep that whole floor structure a foot above the floodplain.
Are those louvers going to go all the way down to the ground?
No, they're not.
How is the water going to drain out of there?
Well, we'll have a low-point foundation drain, too.
Okay, great.
Right now, the back, I think it's about 12 or 16 feet, is all wood frame, and then there's a rock wall that's failing beyond that, that's supporting half the house. And so that's all going to be shored up. And
So
then-
are you going to shore the existing floors, get under there, pull everything out, excavate,
Yeah.
pour?
About a third of the concrete slab needs to go away. The wall on the left side, as you look at the house from the front, has settled. It's approximately 6 inches out of plumb. And at some point, they went in and put some buttresses in on the inside, and those have separated from the wall, too. So it's a major undertaking.
Well, I think Christine's right. I think there's 3 of these, and I know where they all
Three,
are, and they're really cool. I mean, they're really nice. But
20 years ago, this one didn't look so bad, but it's
Yeah.
gone downhill.
Oh, I know.
But you can just see that the Northwest has worked its magic on these over the years. But they have such great character that, I mean, this is to be applauded if they're going to do this. It's fantastic. I mean, just to bring this back and because they have wonderful character. So I think everything you're doing that I see is great, especially on the sides. I mean, it just makes sense. But the structural issues,
They're going to
heavy.
cost substantially more than they anticipated.
yeah, well,
I would like to see the stucco on the back, even though I thought you were doing it for upkeep reasons, not.
No.
But I think it would look better with stucco, don't you?
oh yeah, I mean, well, this whole back will be stucco.
No, I mean instead of.
Oh, on the inside?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anybody?
I'm really indifferent on it. I think it's
Too. It's so
not
recessed,
visible.
you'll never see it.
Okay.
I mean, you really won't. But that, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you want to keep it unified. However, it is recessed in so far
You turn onto Jackson from Lynn, you catch a glimpse of the back of the house, but that's
for a
it.
second.
Yeah.
This,
And that's only if the leaves aren't on the trees.
this partition wall that comes out from the building.
Yes.
What is that? Is
That's
that
going to be stucco.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Stucco with a copper cap on it.
Yeah, I think copper parapets and downspouts and stuff will turn into galvanized pretty quick.
They could, and I'd like a little latitude if we have to.
I mean, it's a cost. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here in favor or in opposition of this application? I assume there's no rebuttal. So I'm going to close this public hearing and open it up to the board to discuss, or if they have any questions for staff.
Typically, I'm not in favor of hardy siding in this sort of application. I just don't think it's going to be visible, and it is recessed. So even if you catch a glimpse of the back, you won't actually see that hardy plank at all.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a great project.
I'm excited for it, too. I always loved this little house and wish that somebody would fix it up.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Do you have anything else, Christina?
No, just recommendation that whoever makes the motion to remove condition of approval number 4.
Number 4. So if someone is so inclined to make a motion, to just...
And then specifically to maybe to make the motion that the window replacement on the front is removed.
It's just, number 4 would be removed.
Yeah. And that the applicant is withdrawing the request to replace the front windows.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Okay. Would someone like to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, if we can call for a vote.
Ms. Falk?
Aye.
Ms. Yates?
I
Mr. Metzen?
Aye.
Chair McLaughlin?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Make it happen.
Good luck with that.
Okay, thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
I think I have to read this again because our next
Yeah,
applicant
and
was
they-
not here when I read it.
Unfortunately, that's correct.
Well, it's the lawyer. Okay. Can we get, I got to get to the agenda so I know what the number is here. Where is it? Agenda. Oh. Okay.
6.
Oh, two of them. Okay. We'll now commence the public hearing on agenda item HR 11-06 and HR 11-07, 308 Jefferson Street, a request for the approval of a new garage. The criteria for approval of a land use action are contained in Chapter 17 of the Oregon City Municipal Code. The proposed development must comply with applicable provisions contained in the City of Oregon City Comprehensive Plan. Generally, unless otherwise noted, if a request is found to be consistent with the municipal code, it is considered consistent with the comprehensive plan. If you wish to participate in this hearing, including challenges for bias or conflict of interest, you must complete the sign-in form located on the table at the front of the room and deliver it to staff. Please do so immediately. The chair will only recognize those who have submitted complete forms. Testimony will be taken in the following order: applicant, testimony in favor, testimony in opposition, rebuttal by applicant. When recognized by the chair, please come forward to the podium, give your name, address, and make your statement. All testimony, arguments, and evidence presented regarding this request must be directed toward the applicable criteria or other criteria in the plan or land use regulation which the person believes to apply to the decision. Please address only the applicable criteria for the decision. Please do not repeat testimony. If you wish, you may choose merely to agree with the previous speaker's statements. An issue which may be the basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals shall be raised not later than the close of the record at or following the final evidentiary hearing. Such issues shall be raised and accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Commission and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision makers and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of persons to participate in the public hearing, either orally or in writing, precludes that person's right of appeal to the City Council or LUBA. Written testimony submitted prior to the hearing constitutes participation in the hearing. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the decision maker to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. The Commission shall grant such request by continuing the public hearing pursuant to the standards contained in ORS 197.763. Do any of the board members have a conflict of interest or ex parte contact regarding this application?
No.
I have contact, but no conflict of interest.
Contact, but no conflict.
Yeah.
You just discussed briefly for the record.
He lives a block away from me. We've chatted 9 months ago.
But not about this specific application.
Not about this project.
Oh. Thank you. Who has visited the site?
I-
I haven't.
Okay.
So,
Okay, well, I'll turn it over to staff.
All right, thank you. This is a request you'll notice from the two land use applications. The way our system works, the demolition request has to be a separate file than the
And that's
new
the-
construction. So one, when you vote this evening, you'll be voting for one file as the demolition request and one file as the new construction. So just as long as you put,
Two separate votes?
no, one
We
vote,
can
just
make it all
just
one.
identify both files.
Gotcha.
So this is a request for the demolition of an existing one-car garage and replacing it with a new two-car garage. The main house is the William H. Howell House. It's a two-story Gothic vernacular residence, and I'm going to go down a little bit to show some of the existing photo of the garage, and then you'll see this is from the alley looking in. From the alley to your right, you'll start to see the rear of the house. There's one more. This is a great photo that kind of shows context. So this shows the main body of the house, and then this is the one-story addition, and then behind that is the garage. So the new garage is approximately in the same location, just slightly larger, but will be accessed off of the same alley. And this is looking back that way. So I'm going to quickly flip. So, okay, applicant has provided this site plan. This is the front of the house. He's showing some walkways. This is the alley, and this is showing the new location of the new garage. The existing garage was approximately about right where my hand is.
What's the width? Is it 50 feet? I see
Of the house,
132.
the property?
70 feet.
70 feet.
Thanks.
70 by 132 is the lot, so it's a little oversized. And it's set back 5 feet from the alleyway, which is our code requires. This is the applicant's site plan showing the back of the house and the new concrete pedestrian connection to the back, and then the new concrete front apron in front of the alley. And it's a 24 by 24 building. And I'm going to do a flip. Just give me a moment. So the applicant is proposing to reuse some of the existing materials on the building, and I'm going to, in my presentation, I have some information, and there were some questions I have, so I'll let the applicant finish off with some answering some of the questions I had on some of the reuse of the materials. But let me start showing. This shows the new proposed two-car garage. It shows a 10-12 roof pitch. What I couldn't ascertain was what the roof pitch was the existing building was, and what's the roof pitch of the vernacular house. And some of the
Can we go back to that?
of
I'm
the
sorry, to the original?
To the original garage,
yeah.
because John could tell.
Well, maybe.
Well, I was looking 8-12, so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Could be right.
It's a 6.
Okay.
It's got to be a 6.
So does the 10-12 match the house?
And that's some of the philosophical questions. Whenever you're doing a new garage on 19th century house, you go about it, there's two different ways you do it. One is you try to make an accessory building that brings off the main architecture of the house, and you're more Gothic revival, but you're creating a building that never existed because there would not have been a Gothic revival garage. So are you creating a Gothic revival barn or livery stable? What do you could do it. You could work really hard and try to create an accessory building that was more, or do you do an accessory building that was more akin to the 1920s garages that were put on the properties at the time and replicate kind of the 1920s garage. So, if you're going down the Gothic vernacular, a 10-12 roof pitch may be okay, but I'm a little worried if you're using more of the 1920s design that the roof pitch needs to be lowered and the top peak of the garage need to be lowered because it wouldn't have been this big if it was a 1920s design garage. So that is some of that faking history question when you do garages on 19th century properties. It's what are you trying to say? Are you trying to compare it to what would have been built for a garage, or what he's replacing, or what is more compatible with the house?
No, what they're saying is they're just making a steeper pitch to get attic space.
Exactly. So the question is it too big? And that's really what I was struggling with when I was looking at this application. And one thing I question when you go, I'm going to go find the picture that shows its relationship to the rear. There we go.
And that rear addition's got a pretty low pitch.
Right. So you have this one-story addition and this low pitch. So you've gone big, small, and then you have about 10 feet, and then you're going big again. Is it suddenly, as you look down that alley, is it starting to all become one building, even though there's 10 feet separated because the addition's so big in height? I don't know if, I think the size of the lot, the 24 by 24 is appropriate, and it's set back, but I worry about the height of the garage and the massing, correct. And so in my recommendation, I wanted to see can we reduce the pitch and bring it down the pitch to like a 612 or an 812? Is this, not only are we removing the pitch, but we're dropping the height? Because if you see on the design, the eaves could be brought down slightly smaller. look like. That's some of the questions that I have. Also, I mean, I really applaud the reuse of the windows. It's always good to
Yes.
reutilize what we have, but with such a big massing, is that one 4x4 window too small? By the time you're done, not knowing, if you're looking at all the siding of that elevation, and then you have the small 4x4 window, is that enough to break up the massing? But it may be fine once it's brought down a little bit. That may be just fine. So those are some of the questions I have for the applicant. I think the materials for the garage door are fine. All the materials look okay, but it's really the height and the roof pitch. And I worry that this is not in footprint, but in bulk is too big for the site, especially how close it is to the one-story addition of the.
Under 8.
So,
No, that's normal.
and I'll bring it back to
7 would
the
be
applicant. The request for demolition, I thought, was generally reasonable. The garage is in okay condition. I've seen a lot worse, but, I've seen better. I think on principle, generally, in past, the Historic Review Board has supported allowing people to demolish smaller garages and build newer ones as a way to say, we acknowledge that you live in a historic house. We want to make sure you are reinvesting, and that we want to make sure that the market value of these homes are not pigeonholed in a position where people feel that they can't make additions to these buildings. So, and because this was a traditional garage accessory building, I don't think rose to a higher level. I mean, other than it's in moderately okay condition, I thought it was a reasonable request. I think if we get to the point where we deny demolitions of these type of garages, I think we really do put ourselves in a corner, I think, as a city, to really say we're not, we are this little time capsule of a property. We're not supporting the rehabilitation and revitalization of these properties. Now, however, if this garage was slightly more significant or in slightly better condition, I think that there may be a little more discussion, but I feel like it just met the threshold. So I am recommending approval for the demolition of this garage, and I think knowing that a lot of the parts will be reused kind of softens the blow a little bit. So I am recommending approval at this point for the demolition. But I think what's still out and needs to be resolved this evening is the roof pitch and the overall height. Because I'm afraid that it's just too big of a massing of an accessory building to be directly behind the building. And you may have a different view. I think it's a close call, but I'm a little bit worried of it.
The 8-foot garage doors, would they still be able to function with the 812 or 612?
Oh, yeah, they've got a 9-foot plate, so they'll easily go in there.
And I wanted to ask you, there was something a while back that if you kept a corner of your garage, if you could call it a remodel.
Oh, it's fine because the Historic Review Board will be approving this. So, he was expanding it. So the board would need to be reviewing it anyway. So that only works when you're not in a historic district and you're and your garage is not currently meeting setbacks.
Okay.
And you are working on repairing it.
Right.
There's a way you can keep 2 walls up and and one half of the roof up at one time, and you can kind of repair it to new without affecting your grandfathered setbacks, or you're not. But in this situation, the board has the ability to reduce it's just not an issue for this situation.
Christina, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but would you happen to know what the pitch of my garage roof is?
It would either be 6 or 8,
Okay.
because that's most likely what a bungalow would have been.
This is before I was on the
Yeah.
board.
1012 is a little steep for a bungalow designed 1920s garage.
This is definitely from the teens or 20s, just because of the drop tier siding. That was very.
Right. Oh, yeah, the existing garage is definitely 1920s.
Yeah, but just the siding just
Exactly.
makes it. That's what it is.
Yeah. So then the question is, should it match the house or the garage is being demolished.
Correct.
We
And
haven't talked, I mean, there's
Yeah.
no detail on that, is there?
Well,
I'd-
yeah, there's a cedar, he says that he's going to use cedar siding.
Yeah, but, you know,
I'd like to give a little bit more context. The garage that's directly adjacent to it is a little narrower, and it's built as a story and a half, so that the steep pitch, the steep pitch isn't quite as noticeable, and it doesn't look like quite an expansive roof. They also did a 1.5 car garage, which is
car, yeah.
So the garage directly adjacent to it does have some height to it. I will say that I'm not sure it's 19 feet, but it's pretty close.
and we have approved 24 by 24 two-car garages in this district. It's a fair to normal process. I think it's just and it's not that we haven't approved a larger garage. We have. I think we've done it with dormers before in Geneva when I was a little bit taller. But I don't know the last time I've approved that tall of top of peak.
I think right before we got on the board, there was someone built a garage, a studio in the back somewhere in this neighborhood, pretty narrow. It had a pretty steep pitch. It was like a story and a half. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was in the back.
Oh, this is, the one I was speaking of is a property on First Avenue in Kenema.
Yeah, this isn't Kenema. This is kind of in this neighborhood.
Yeah, there was a kind of a carriage house that was approved, I want to think 04, and it was
It's
approved.
like purple or something like that, the color of it.
Oh, yes, you're right. That was approved. That was a one-car garage with a studio above it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that had a pretty steep pitch, but it was narrow.
Correct, and that was based on it was also a 19th century vernacular house. But I think seeing that it was that was a very large lot, and that was on the back corner of
Back corner, but it was skinny.
the alley, and it was skinny and tall.
But it aesthetically, it looked right.
Right, and there was also about 30 to 40 feet separation between the main house and that.
Yeah, it was back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
So
this
that's
is
the
nice.
larger question. It's not that this is inappropriate. It's not that it's just the question of you have the main house, you have the addition, you have this, you're on the alley. Does this start to overtake the house? And that's based on the plans submitted. I don't know. And that's what I'm hoping this evening, that the applicant doesn't have to come back next month. I'm hoping we could come up with a solution through conditions of approval that can get the board comfortable
I have
with
a cool
the
solution.
answer.
It'd just be expensive. What's that?
So that's my goal, if we could get a conditioned approval this evening. If not, then the other option would be to recommend a redesign back in the July meeting. But if we can come up with a solution that's mutually acceptable, that would be, I think, the first goal this evening.
Okay.
What was your thought?
So I can bring the applicant up if you want to ask the applicant questions.
Yeah, let's start there. Let's come on up, state your name. You've got time, but you probably won't need it all. But
Hello. My name's Randy Horton. I live at 308 Jefferson. What would you guys like to know?
well, I'm married to things. You're going to try and reuse these windows.
Yeah, there's about 3 windows on the north-facing side, and I was going to use those probably most likely on the upper story. So those are the dimensions I put in there. And as far as other windows, I was probably going to get some ones from like a salvage yard or something like that, so that they're wood and they match appropriate to what's there now and what will be there.
What's the siding you're going to use?
Originally, when I put this together, I was going to put the cedar siding, which matches the house, which is a 6-inch, lip shows. Right now, like you said, teardrop is like 2 inches or something like that. So I was just going to make it the same as the house, which is 6. Then after talking to guys that I work with and stuff, they said the Hardy Plank stuff is like half as much, and it looks exactly the same. So I was going to talk to you guys about just putting that up. I know when I read you guys' thing, you guys talk a lot about energy and conserving this and that. And, I think, are you the builder? Do you have the builder truck? Somebody
Yeah, I
said
drove
that-
by this evening to see you.
Yeah.
Because
I
had
mean,
to see that.
right off that, it's going to cost less. You got trees, you got this stuff, it's not even made out of wood, and, less paint and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you got a cheaper price and you got less materials to use and stuff like that, I mean, I feel like if we're going to go, conserve on energy and paint, which is made out of oil and stuff like that, I mean, I would push for that, but, I mean, I guess it's up to you guys as far as what's
No, I get
appropriate.
it. And Hardy Smooth looks
Yeah, the same. That's what's on there.
pretty
It's-
much the same.
It's 6-inch smooth. It's not the rough cut or anything like that.
It is. It's similar, and we've approved it before on new construction. I guess where we have to talk to staff about it with that in regard is because it's so close to the existing house.
Right.
The existing house, you've got a lap, which is it's got a reveal to it that's on a lap, a beveled siding. And the Hardy's not really a bevel, but it still looks pretty dang close.
Yeah. Especially once painted. And it's on an alley. I don't know really too many people that drive up there.
I did. Yeah, I get all that. Right now with the 10-12, you've got about, even after rafters, you've got about 11 or 12 feet to the ridge.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. I originally had a 12-12 just because the original house has a 14-12, and then, like you said, the add-on is an 8-12. So I was just going to do a 12-12 in between there to match what's already there.
Yeah.
But that made it too high because I need the 9-foot ceilings for the garage doors. So I just brought it down to a 10-12, which brings the roof down.
So are you going to stick frame the roof to get space?
No, I got rafters.
Trusses or stick
Yeah,
frame?
trusses.
Trusses.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you said, just to put stuff up there, boxes, miscellaneous, things like that.
Well,
And that's so you can have clearance up there to walk.
sure.
And-
And I get what Christina's saying. I don't know, maybe you guys can see it. I mean, it's pretty tall. It has pretty big massing. And so you want this thing to
Right.
be a secondary building, so it's not, hey, cool house. Wow, what's that big old monster thing in the back? So,
Well, it
here's-
makes the code's height. And like you were saying, the neighbor has one. I was talking to him the other day, and he originally had a 2-story because he has a skinny 1-story with a space up top that he has, he does artwork and stuff in there. And he told me that he originally had it higher enough, and you guys, when he came to you guys had him drop it down a foot. It must be. Isn't you have to have an average of 15 feet?
What? No. Well, part of it is, we can look at, go ahead.
I think the neighbor is Karen Grondin, if you remember, who are on the board. They're the group that chose to designate their property for the preservation grant to remove
Oh,
the
yeah,
brick
they're
in front.
removing stuff. Yeah.
And as part of that, they did approve a 1-car garage with a small studio above. So that was in this
I remember
area.
that. Well, here's the thought. I see what you're doing. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Totally get it. You want space. If you're driving by, this is in the back.
Right.
What you're going to see is this huge plane of roof. It's a lot of roof, and it's going to bam. So my only thought is, and I don't know if you're amiable to it, and I don't even know if it would apply, but and it's a cost thing, but we can at least talk about it. It wouldn't be bad to put a shed dormer along that side. That could get you some light, but that's, it's cost. And I guess,
Right.
do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I asked to put a dormer on the original house because the staircase, when you reach the top of the roof in the main house, you hit your head because it's so low. The 14-12 just bangs in your head. I was denied that. So I didn't really go for any dormers on this kind of thing just because it doesn't match anything else that's on the property or anything around the house. I don't see any dormer houses, so I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
not so much that.
you're right. You can talk about it. I mean, that's an option.
Well, what
I
I'm
guess.
saying is, I don't think you're going to get away with a 10-12 pitch. It's too tall.
Yeah.
Because, take a skinny house, a skinny studio, a skinny garage,
Right.
and you can go a story and a half, and you get a fairly steep pitch, and aesthetically it will work. Suddenly you get a 24 square, you put a 10-12 on it, you've more than doubled the height of this thing. It's aesthetically it's out of place, and historically it might definitely be more of a distraction to the rest of the property. And it is in the back. I get that. I know, but it's still visible. It's going to be even more visible than what you've been looking at since you've been there. An 812 would be appropriate. 1012 is pretty steep, and I'm only saying something like a dormer. And the other
Just to
thing
throw
is,
it off.
it softens it, but generally, in a historic perspective, nothing back there would have matched the house anyway. Whether it was in the 1880s or the 1920s, It was more of a utility structure, and if it was built in the 1880s, it would have been a barn.
Right. I'm a type A guy. I like straight lines. I like everything to match. That's just me. That's why I went with there. Yeah.
Sure. No, I get it.
Yeah, I thought that's the road you're going to go down with the shed dormer.
I don't know. That's the architect in me, I guess.
Are you talking about having it on the front?
No, right here, a shed right
So
there.
if you're standing at the street and looking at it, rather than seeing a very large roof plane,
Oh,
it would break it up a little bit, and it would be appropriate to something in the 20s.
That's right, maybe a 10-foot wide shed that has 2x2 windows that go along it, that even on a building built back then would have been appropriate.
Yeah, a perfect example of that is what was just approved last summer with Seth Ettinger and his father. The 2-car garage carriage house
off of Monroe,
had a
8th.
shed dormer.
Same thing. Yeah, and that was subjugated to the back.
10-12, wasn't it?
And, if it was going to be, if there was going to be a dormer on that side, I feel comfortable with the 10-12.
That's how I look at it, because if you bring that down to an 8 and do that, it's going to look squatty.
Yep.
If you're going to have something this steep to get that look or whatever it is, if you have that shed, it softens it, and it serves a couple purposes. It softens it from the road. You get your height that you want, and you get more space.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it is, I don't know how I feel about imposing, additional cost to do that. But however, that's something that we have to talk about.
I guess there's two choices there, that the pitch can come down, or there could be a dormer on the side.
Yeah, that's a good point. If yours is 8, yours is
Mine's
8.
And
I
we
don't.
could stand up in our attic.
Oh, yeah. We have a 24 by 24 garage we built new 5 years ago, and I can talk to you about it afterwards, and you're welcome to come see it. And we have a pull-down staircase, and there's tons of room up
Yeah.
there, and easy to stand, and just tons
Same
of room
Something to
for
consider.
storage.
Something to consider, rather than going with a scissor truss, if you need some more room, is just throwing in rafters instead. You'll get some extra room that way.
You can stick frame it. It's gonna. If you're doing this, it'll be
Yeah.
trusses are less, and if you did scissors,
I was
scissors are
actually-
difficult.
Yeah, I was really surprised to hear you say you were going to put a truss in there.
Yeah, I went and had him. I talked to a guy that he gave me up his paper and everything like that, and he gave me the one for 1212. I haven't talked to him since I changed it to a 1012, so I don't really know the height and everything. I don't.
The size of the garage, because it's 24, probably wouldn't be a whole lot of cost difference. If you do that,
The cost as far as like the width and the height and everything like that. I know it's only 2 feet, so it'll bring it down a little bit, but
you can. I think Derek makes a good point. I mean, as far as possibility, you could have those two options: you either bring it down, or you add a shed dormer. That's a possibility. What's your? I mean, are you going to say something?
Oh, yeah, if that, we can work on specific conditions of the dimensions and the recommended dimensions of the dormer, so I have direction. I do have a question about the windows, and if with the reduced massing, or even the dormer, if reusing the existing windows and not knowing where new, kind of providing direction if the applicant doesn't quite know what windows he's going to use or acquire from the rebuilding center, better direction on where they need to be and at a minimum what size they need to be. Because I'm a little worried.
Well, how many of these
If it's here, and even if there is a dormer on the side, so that might mitigate the massing, is this existing 2 by 2 divided like too small for this elevation? It's because of a larger question I
You
have.
used them below on the sides of the garage. I don't think that.
Does that front create too much of a siding? And does that small window
Well, how many of
mitigate
these,
that?
How many of these 27 by 35s are there?
there's 3. And so I was going to put one on the east end and one on the west end on the top. Those ones, I just put in dimensions. I mean, I haven't got anything but, I mean, I'm not going to put in a 1 foot by 1 foot window in this house. I'm going to make things look appropriate. I want this to look good.
Well, we wouldn't put anything in there that would be,
Yeah, I don't know. You guys are kind of talking about, oh, is that big enough? Well, I'm not going to put it in there if it's going to look dumb. So it's like I'm going to find a window that looks appropriate for the house and like the right dimension. I put the dimensions in there for the windows that I have right now. I don't have every single window that is needed for right now.
For sure. I understand that. And I did something very similar, and when I went through the process, I hadn't bought the windows yet. You know, you go to the rebuilding center up in Portland and find the ones that work, and that.
Yeah, that's what I was planning on doing.
And, you know, if the board is comfortable with that, give me direction through the conditions of approval of how I work with the applicant to do that, and I'm comfortable with that, but I need a little bit of direction so I can say, no, you need to do more, or you haven't done enough based on this condition. I just need to give some parameters.
What?
But I'm happy to work with the applicant if he wants to go looking for windows at the rebuilding center and makes, you know, I found these, where can they go? I'd be happy to work with that with some direction.
Well, I think that if he brings it down to a 10 or an 8-12, I think that those windows would work, wouldn't they?
yeah.
And I was going to ask you about the garage doors. Were you going to go with that arch design that you had shown?
No, I was going to go square. I was going to do, as far as those right there.
Yeah.
No, I was going to go square.
Yeah.
That was
I
just
think
a
that
picture I
would
got off the
be- I think
internet.
that would be better.
And often I find that the ones without windows look nicer and are cheaper. So depending on the lighting, oftentimes just the wood garages without any windows look more historically appropriate and are cheaper.
Well, historically, those would have been swinging outdoors, and they
Right.
would
Yeah,
have
that's
had,
what's there
Right.
now.
they probably would have had divided light on the top. But, you know, either way, I don't think it'd be a big deal. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions?
Would it be possible for you to come up with a drawing that shows the massing of the garage compared to the house and how it looks, how it would look if it was completed?
There should be one on there in the plans
Next to the house?
No, there isn't
for
one.
height.
And I wouldn't call these plans, but, no. I think what she's saying is if you were to take a picture of that alley,
Yeah.
and you saw an elevation from the front of the house going along the alley to the front of the garage.
Okay.
So the massing, so you'd see, here's the height of the house.
Right.
And then the garage, and see how that looks.
Okay.
That's what she was asking.
I think the larger question is, do you feel comfortable this evening on conditionally approving this, or do you feel like you need to see a revised drawing? Because I think, depending on that answer...
I'd like to see
kind of
drawings,
there's-
actually.
That means that this needs to be continued to the next meeting, which is fine. It just...
Well, are we talking about 2 feet? Are we going from a 10 to 8? I mean,
No, we're talking about a drawing.
how much? I know the drawing is right now it's a 10-12, and you want an 8-12 is what you're asking for. I mean, 2 feet is this
Well,
big.
whether it was
So-
still, whether it was a 10-12 or an 8-12, we'd still want to see a drawing.
I guess I don't understand that. I mean, your ability, you know what I'm talking about. It's 2 feet. It's not. I mean, you're going to see a piece of paper. It's going to be this big, or it's going to be this big.
What we need are actually drawings, construction documents that you would actually turn in, like the drawings that you saw previous to the previous applicant.
Like the architect had drawn.
We just need to see something with some detail on it. If we say, you know, we can have a condition that this needs to be this pitch, then
Right.
you've got to come back with the drawings that are actually dimensioned, elevation.
But that'll come back to staff, though, not to the board. So the question is...
That's what I'm trying
Yeah,
to figure out
right.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm in that
Got it.
with everybody else.
Apologize.
Because what you have now, you cannot turn in to get a permit.
Right. I understand that.
So I'm going to just try and help you out a little bit here. If you could describe the windows and the pitch that you're going for, like give us a really good description. We could just make it really simple on you, perhaps.
Okay.
I mean,
there's drawings there, right? I mean, there's going to be windows that are appropriate for the right amount of size. I understand it. it's going to be big. It's 24 by 24. I mean, I'm going to find windows that look appropriate for a 9-foot side wall that's 24 foot wide. I mean, I don't know. Are we hung up on an 8 by 12 or a 10 by 12? I guess then I'll go with an 8 by 12. I don't want to delay this for another month and spend I don't know how much more money. I've already spent $300 just to come and see here. I don't know how much more to come back is. But if you want 8 foot switch, then I guess I'll have to live with that. I mean, I'd like to get going in summertime. It's not raining for once, and I'd like to, get going on this project. So, I mean, if we're hung up on the roof, we're hung up on the. As far as that, I mean, I don't know the windows. We just. All I can say is that the windows that I would buy would be appropriate for the siding. I mean, I don't know. Were you looking for sizes? Do you want a 4x4? Do you want a 4x3?
I guess
Is that what you're looking for?
Well, we could tell you specific sizes or parameters to put in there.
Right.
I was trying to
we
give
have a 2x3 right now.
I guess I was trying to give you some leeway in describing to us, I'd like a proportion of 2 to 3 and roughly this size and kind of
That's fair.
what you're
That's
thinking. It would be nice if you tell us what size the fascia board is, if you're going to do some slant out cuts or straight down, if you're going to put a fascia along the side. I mean, the burden's kind of on you to describe what you want to do, and we're just trying to give you some guidance. Tell us what you want to do.
Okay. I thought I put it all in that big 4-page narrative I did. So I'm doing a 24 by 24. I was going to do a 6-inch, what I hope is hardy plank siding, depending on what you guys say. I guess parameters for windows, either a 3x4 or a 4x4. I mean, whatever I can find that's in the decent condition as far as windows. The garage doors, the sizes. The door, man door is 6x6 or whatever it is, 7 by 6 feet by 3 feet. I guess what else did you want to? You talk a lot, and then I just gotta go one by one.
So with are you going to be using reclaim doors for the man door? Or looking
Yeah, I'll have to find a reclaim door. The door that's on there is all rotted and pitted out.
Okay.
I was going to do a 5-panel, which is what's there now, so just one that's in better shape.
Well, just know we're not trying to be a stumbling block. It's all
I know
about
that.
trying to work with you. And I know you want to get through it, and we want to too.
Right.
But we also have to look at the greater aspects of what you're doing, that you can't throw just anything up and hope it flies.
Yeah, I
we want to
wouldn't-
make sure that you're groovy with everything, and that
Right.
we're just here to help. Just like Derek said, it's about how can we help you. But we're trying to refine a little bit more of what you're doing. What you're doing is great. I mean, I'm all about it. I see it. I see the need, especially with what you got. But we're just looking at massing, aesthetics, and in relationship to the house you have, which is all great. But I get why you're getting the space. It's just, and it is in the alley. Nobody's really going to pay attention. But we also want to make sure that it's subjugated to the house instead of detracting
I
from it.
totally understand that.
So, having said that, if we're talking the same thing, I think reducing the pitch, if you're up for that,
Okay.
that would be the easiest, most expeditious thing for you to
All right.
agree to. And I think with where we're at right now is how I'm looking at this is that, and we can talk about this briefly, but I think your drawings, if on a staff level, that they become permitted drawings, construction documents, that can skate by us, that we don't have to see that as long as it's what we're talking about. You don't have to come back here with formal drawings.
Right. Are you talking about the window sizing?
I'm talking about all of it.
Okay.
Right now, like I said, you cannot turn this in to get a permit. You've got to do formal
Gotta have
drawings. These aren't.
I understand that.
Yeah, okay, so you're cool with that, that
Yeah.
you've got to come back and,
Right.
you've got engineering, you've got drawings, section drawings, elevations.
Yeah.
From our perspective, we can make a motion, potentially, I'm just talking here, to approve this, and we would make a motion regarding the pitch. I think we could also talk about the existing windows that you've drawn. If you can keep the existing windows, use those, and try and find something that's akin to those. I guess what I'd need to hear from everybody is the thoughts on siding, because I get it. Hardy's going to be a lot less expensive.
Right.
It's an accessory dwelling, I mean, an accessory unit, it's an outbuilding. It's not the house. But I need to hear from everybody how they feel about that, and then what staff thinks about that. So, does that all seem kind of,
Yeah, that's fair.
okay?
Yeah, I totally get that.
So you can close the hearing.
I'd like to
Start
close the hearing, because I don't think there's anybody for or favor, unless you guys wanted to say something, or, because we just want to resolve it and be done. So that's what I'd like to hear. I'm closing the meeting. Go ahead and sit down, and thanks. Appreciate it.
Really?
Yeah, you can stay. Well, you need to stay, but you don't have to stay. So,
So how close to the Hardy plank is the siding to the house? Siding?
Right now
Is
it's
it the
a-
same as our siding? The house siding?
pretty much, yeah, it's a lap, and truly, we've approved Hardy on new construction, on new homes, and a home not far from here by those people that built the house, you know, the same builders over on 8th Street that fought us.
But they weren't making anything else.
No. This would, if you wanted to throw a stink, you could say they'd have to copy the teardrop drive, but that's cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
But, you know. any
From 10
thoughts?
feet away, you really can't tell the difference.
Not smooth. You
Right.
really can't.
It would have to be smooth.
Well, I think if it's smooth hardy plank, it's down the alley, it's an accessory building, I'm not troubled by that.
Yeah. So I think, just to make this simple, try and get back to simplicity, we can make a motion discussing what we just did.
Okay, can I list what I
Yeah.
heard?
Yeah.
Okay. I heard recommending a condition of approval number 6. Well, actually, 5 will be striked, because that talks about the siding. So in place of 5, there's going to be a revised condition of approval number 5, and this is page 15 of 87 of your whole packet,
wait.
and page 11 of the staff report.
Page 11 of the staff.
Mm-hmm.
Page 11.
Oh, actually, hold on. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page.
Yeah, that
I was
the
I was
first
writing
one.
my notes on the first one. I apologize.
Yeah, so what?
It's going to be, well, a condition of approval number 3 talks about the height. So you could strike condition of approval number 3 and
But are we on page
Oh,
11?
page 11. And this is page 59 of 87 of the whole packet.
Page 11, hold on. Okay, here we go. You're saying,
So,
okay, one,
condition of approval number 3 reads, "The applicant did not provide the height of the top peak of the existing building to help determine the new building." And it goes on to talk about the pitch, and if the HUB determines that the proposed garage appears too big for the site, staff recommends that the applicant either reduce the roof pitch to 812 or reduce the top peak from 19 to 17 feet. That could be just taken out and just says the historic review board the applicant shall provide the following revisions to their plan, and I'm going to list the revisions I heard.
okay.
Of course, I just closed my page. Hold on. Here we go. I heard that the applicant provide smooth 6-inch cement board siding, utilize the existing 3x4 windows, and provide new windows that are either 3x4 or 4x4.
I think these windows are 2
No.
by
Oh,
3.
the 2x3, I'm sorry.
And I would not recommend that.
So not reuse the 2x3 windows?
No, two.
Oh, 2x3,
windows.
okay. And then what's the recommendation for new reclaimed windows?
For new windows, I would just like to point out that the windows that are being reused are paired together.
I know, and he's requesting them to be pulled apart.
Right. And for the peaks, that's fine. As he's looking for new windows around the signs, I'd suggest a proportion of 3 to 1 horizontal to vertical, or 3 to 2 horizontal to vertical, to go along with the window at the back of the garage that wasn't discussed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Garage doors are approved as submitted, though they can be without windows. The board approves the proposed reclaimed man door 5-panel wood to replicate what was there. The board, the applicant shall provide drawings that revise the roof pitch to 812. And I think those is what I heard.
Yeah.
Is there any question that the board wants to put on it, that yes, fascia questions, or is there a question about
Just the
the roof
drawings.
overhang?
That's something, should we have that in this? then?
No, that'll be part of the building
Okay.
permit.
Never mind.
And if you had any more detailed questions, such as eaves or fascia or anything such as that you wanted to add?
He had 18 inches on the overhangs, that's fine. No. I think that's all fine. Does anybody have? No?
No.
No, that's fine. I think we can make a
Those
motion.
conditions are,
Somebody want to make a motion on
So
that?
those would be added in to that condition number 3.
I move we approve HR 1106.
And 07.
I mean 1107. Is that the demolition?
You can just do both.
1106, and are we going to do both? Yeah, and 1107, based on the conditions
As amended.
That's amended.
as amended.
Does anybody second?
Second.
Call a roll
Ms. Toll?
or vote?
Aye.
Ms. Yates?
Aye.
Mr. Metzen?
Aye.
Chair McLaughlin?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0, approved as amended.
We got there. Just took a little while. We got there.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate all your
Go spend some money.
effort on this.
This meeting is
Have a wonderful July, and I'll
adjourned.
see you on the second Tuesday of
Yes.
July for the work session /
And you'll
interview. And I will
remind us.
remind you, and it'll be an agenda. You'll be sent out a notice of the agenda.
Okay.
Great.